Don't you understand?
Oh, I got to tell this story. Oh, this is a great story. You've never heard this one, Roger.
I'm anxious.
Joey is my spotter. Joey Meyer, 2Spotter on Twitter if you want to follow him. And the first time I worked with him was it was the first couple of races I worked. I'm not going to say it was the first time. It was really close to the first time. I was at Charlotte in 2007 in the spring race, and my dad was crew chiefing. And we were driving, I was driving, I should say, this car for this guy out of Kentucky, and it was really underfunded, and we made the show. And keep in mind, 2007 was a really tough year to make the nationwide races with all the double-duty cars and so forth. And we made the show, and it was great, and it was everything I could have dreamed of. And you know, it was just when I was starting to break in. And so Joey's alluding to that because we were together as we were breaking in, or he'd already been as part of the sport, but I was breaking in with him. And that's when our relationship really started. And so anyway, in this race, there's two parts of this story. We changed our right front spring once in practice, and Paul will appreciate this because he's a crew chief and a car guy. But in order to put a right front spring in, you got to lower the suspension down, and these cars have brake lines in them, and it's flexible brake line. But these the way the spring went in, the brake line was too short and it broke. So we changed the spring, and I went out on the track. And about that time, the yellow came out for practice. Somebody wrecked, and it was right at the end of practice. And so practice got canceled right there. But I was already out on the line. And for those of you that have been to Charlotte and know how that works, at the end of nationwide practice, Cup qualifying begins. And so for whatever reason, I don't remember exactly why, instead of doing a lap around the track and return to the garage, everybody did like this half lap backwards down that quarter-mile track they have at Charlotte. Well, I didn't realize I didn't have any brakes. So we grabbed like second or third gear. We're going like 65 mile an hour backwards around this racetrack. And I make this right-hander into the quarter mile. And the whole Cup field's there for qualifying. I mean, the whole Cup field. And I'm going like 60 mile an hour. And I go to hit the brakes. Nothing. And all I can see is all these people, all these cars, and Jeff Gordon's cars right in front of me. I got no brakes, and I'm out of control. So I make this hard lap and go through the infield, and I'm just tear this car all up. And the record driver comes and gets me, and he yells in the window in this very southern voice, you know, a couple obscenities with basically saying, "What were you doing?" And I'm like, "I didn't have any brakes." So as it would happen, we replaced that brake line with another brake line that just happened to be even shorter and broke in the race. So we get in the race, and we do this first run in the race. And I'm running pretty good. I'm running like 15th or 20th, which, again, for where I was at in my career was great. You know, it was awesome. That was all I could ask for. And there's a green flag pit cycle. And getting ready for the green flag pit cycle, and I push the brakes. We're halfway through the run, and the brake line breaks off this car. And so this car won't stop. So we talk about it for 15, 20 laps. And we're talking about, well, when this green flag pit stop comes, you know, we're going to have to get the car stopped because the car's not going to stop. You know, it's got no brakes. And we get on pit road, and I go to pull into my pit stall. And everybody jumps across the wall, jack in hand, everything. And everyone forgot that I had no brakes, and I just right through the pit stall. So I go, this is in the middle of green flag pit stops. So I'm like 20 boxes down, no brakes. So the whole crew runs over and starts to push the car backwards. And I get Joey spotting the whole time, and Joey's over the rail going, "Oh, my God," you know, and Joey's real exaggerated about it. And we finally they're pushing my car backwards really, really fast. And I get 5 stalls away, and they're pushing me backwards. And they do like this push-off motion, like a bobsled. And so what happens? I still have no brakes. So I'm going down pit road at what feels like 35 mile an hour. I know a human being can only run like 10 or 15, but it felt like this car was going 35 mile an hour. Backwards, under green, in the middle of green flag pit stops, no brakes. And, of course, so what happens? I go flying through pit box backwards and almost up on the racetrack backwards. And my dad comes over the radio at that moment and goes, "What part of no brakes don't you understand?" And he just goes off on these crew guys. And for me and for Joey, that was one of those moments where we bonded together and just have told that story, and Joey's been with me almost ever since. So that's how far Joey and I have come together. But we still tell that story all the time. So now you know the story. That's my racing story.
Okay, let's.
I don't think you guys have heard that either, have you?
No.
No.
Let's pick it back up here. Jenna, did you get your
It was
question?
story time. We were bench racing.